message for the ladies and gentlemen around the world and all the ships at sea.
We all make choices, but in the end, our choices make us. So choose wisely. Subscribe to It's Erik Nagel wherever shows are found, on whatever platform you choose. And as always, leave us a positive review. Would you kindly?
I like how she has the Broadway lighting around the edging
I know,
of
I'm
the
very
room.
jealous. I wish I had lighting like
Right? Because most people would go the tacky way and it would just be the horrible looking Christmas light deal. But she went classy with not just the regular white, which comes off yellow. She went with the LED white, which is both easy on the eyes and energy efficient.
I would go with marquee, like the ones that chase, and then like it goes around once it goes bling, 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 so I would never sleep.
You follow the patterns like press your luck.
Yeah, exactly. Boop, 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 boop. Whammy.
It's Erik Nagel. And it starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the universe, the next voice you hear.
It's Erik Nagel.
Hello, welcome to another edition of It's Erik Nagel. That is myself. Over in the upside down, that would be Giddles.
Yo, what up, buddy?
Thank you for joining us this week. 651 Smithers is the phone number, 651-764-8437. If you want to call and get in touch with the program. It's Erik Nagel across the board on social media. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and just follow us and we'll be happy and we'll be your friends for life, we promise. On today's show, the return of Giddles, since he wasn't here last week. And Brian Shea's here.
Hey, what's up?
There he is. Hi, Brian Shea.
Hello, Erik Nagel.
Our pal from Game Informer, who a few weeks ago was out and about at the E3 convention for 2019. We have a lot to talk about this week. We had to put it off a week. Like I said, Brian had plans. Brian Shea had stuff to do. And here we all are. But there's a bonus to this. Because our pal Xia Anderson is back on the program. And she's going to be joining us with all the video game stuff. It's a girl! It's Xia Anderson.
Oh my god, I don't know if you want to call it a bonus, but thank you.
Hi, how are you? So you got a new job now. What are you doing from the last time we talked to you? What are you doing with Geek Bomb Squad?
Yeah, just basically content creator. I write the scripts, do the voiceover, and then actually create the video for whatever the topic is. Usually they try to jump on trending stuff, with,
What's the company called?
Geek Bomb.
Geek Bomb. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I had the Geek Bomb Squad. Like they're a bunch of terrorists.
Part of the bomb squad, yeah. It sounds super sketchy.
Or they're the subgroup of the Geek Squad from Best Buy. Like they're the cool people from the Geek Squad. You really have to. You have to work there.
Imagine they give you like a cool vest and you get like those glasses and you have like a walkie-talkie and you're like, oh no, you gotta, connect the blue wire. And it's like, no.
Yeah, because that would make me feel super cool. A vest and some glasses. Totally.
Fuck yeah.
You have that blue pin like a noob. The Geek Bomb Squad has the orange pin. That's how you know we command respect.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
She doesn't care. Anyway, moving on. Welcome to the program here, everybody. E3 has come and gone. We did not get to go to it, but Brian Shea did. Thus why he is here. He's going to tell us everything that happened in the world of gaming, which I think more people were following the streams and the news coming out of E3 this year more than any other year in history.
Yeah, you think so? I don't know. When I'm on the ground at E3, like you get such a small picture of what E3 actually is, because like you guys back home watching the streams and everything get like the bigger picture. Like what's being talked about on social media, people are excited about, whereas like I get such like a close-up view of it. I don't get to see the full picture often. Like, I mean, now I've kind of had some time to look back at like the stuff that people were posting about and digest it a little bit, but still I didn't know that people were kind of more keyed into it, like you're saying.
Do you go back and look at all that stuff trying to see if you can see yourself in the crowd through people's photos and videos? There's part of my ear. There's Keanu Reeves.
I've only done that with The Dark Knight Rises, which I was an extra in. And no, I can't find myself there either.
I saw you in it. You were great.
Oh, did you? Thank you.
Yeah. You were like...
But as far as the social media feeds go, while all this was going on, I saw more people posting, and it's not just because of the people I follow and the interest that we have, but I saw more people posting about games that I know wouldn't normally be posting about gaming or new releases and what have you. It was everywhere. It seemed like it's always a big deal, but this year seemed to be the year that more people who normally wouldn't watch these things nor go to these things were all about it. They were all checking this out.
Yeah, well, I mean, Keanu blew the hell up. Just his presence at E3 like escalated the profile of the event substantially. I mean, there's no better time to have Keanu involved with your project than right now, like with John Wick at the way it is, and like just everything he does is turning to gold right now. So
new Bill and Ted coming out soon.
Exactly. He's in Toy Story, I hear. I haven't seen Toy Story 4 yet, but I hear he's in it.
And was just revealed that the MCU was trying to recruit him into their world, but he had too much going on that he had to turn it down. He said, I can't right now. But Kevin Feige...
Somehow he's hotter than he was during his role as Neo in The Matrix.
Right.
I don't know how that happened.
But Kevin Feige, he said that, he's like, we understand he's busy, he's got a schedule, he's got a lot to do, but we're not going to stop. Eventually, we will find a role that will get him in here. And then once he's in there...
All they need to do is have Marvel just make a John Wick comic book and then be like, all right, you're just in it now.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Just make a John Wick comic book, boom, you're in. Now you're John Wick and you're in this universe and you have to shoot Thanos 40 times in the face.
Unfortunately,
they did.
Go ahead.
That is what they did with Jake Gyllenhaal. Like that, they had been looking at him for a Marvel role for ages, and finally they found one for him.
Yeah, they were trying to bring Brokeback Mountain into the Marvel universe, and they just couldn't swing it. But now Mysterio for Spider-Man, like, all right, well, that was our second choice, so we'll do that.
Yeah, not as good, but
not as good, not as sexy because he's got a fishbowl on his head, but. Eventually, we'll get down to the nitty-gritty where maybe him and Gambit are camping somewhere, and things go astray. Anyway, moving on. I'm
going to say no to that.
Yes. So, Brian, we're going to lean on you for this since you were there and you're doing all the reviews and everything for, by the way, GameInformer.com, right? It's just GameInformer.com for the website?
GameInformer.com and Game Informer Magazine.
Right. Brian and the whole amazing staff over at Game Informer have been writing up articles and pieces on their website for the magazine. They do their own podcast and video chats and all that stuff. Everything really in depth for E3. You can go over there and if you want more information on all of that. But Brian's here to tell us surface level for you out there that might be interested in gaming or have never played a game in your life. This might be something that turns you around. Brian, we're going to default to you here. You lead the way. Where do you want to start with E3?
Oh, boy. Well, we could start with probably the best thing that I saw, which I think was the best thing a lot of people saw, which
Keanu
is Cyberpunk
Reeves?
2077.
Oh, that.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, that game
we already
too.
talked about him, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we can never not talk about Keanu Reeves. You can never fill your quota. There's never enough Keanu.
There's a Keanu quota now?
No, I'm telling you there's not. We're breaking barriers here.
Yeah.
We will not be restricted.
All right, well, that's a perfect segue because Keanu, the reason he was there was Cyberpunk 2077. He is in that game, and I saw him in the game, and like he's like your companion basically. Like he kept popping up all throughout the demo. I saw a full hour of gameplay, which last E3 I also saw a full hour of gameplay. So this is a completely different section. Just the crazy stuff you can do in this game, the way that you can interact with the world, the way the world is fully imagined and fully realized just looks incredible.
Do you think Keanu actually is playing or has played the game? Or that he knows he's in the game?
Oh, he definitely knows he's in the game.
I'm in the game.
He seems in on it. I mean, it seems like he's with you for most of the game. That is what I'm hearing, which is pretty crazy because like CD Projekt Red, the developer, they're the ones who did the Witcher series, and those games are not short. And it seems like this one is going to be pretty long as well. So if he has a significant role in this game, like he is spending tens of hours in the voice box thing. So in the studio. So it's I don't know how they're going to get him for that long, but it might end up being like Metal Gear Solid 5, where they were like, hey, we got Kiefer Sutherland to voice Solid Snake, and then like it became apparent that Konami was cutting back their budget significantly, and then like Kojima came out and was like, oh, he's a mostly silent protagonist now.
Well, maybe they just send him the pages and he records it on location from his movies. Like we found out a while back, the people from The Simpsons, they don't come together and do the lines with each other anymore, and they haven't for years. They got these apps on their phone that's an industry company. I forgot what the name of the company was, but it's an industry thing, and they just plug right into their phone. They do their lines from wherever they are, and that's what goes out over the air on the animated shows.
Well, I don't know how involved he is either, because he might be doing motion capture. Because if they have his likeness and his character model and everything, a lot of times they'll have those actors come in and do some motion capture as well. And a lot of those sessions are recorded in LA. So, I mean, I know the studio is based in Poland, but I think they have an LA branch as well.
Maybe they just said, hey, whatever motion captures are left over from the Wix series, can you just send it over and we'll throw it in the game?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Seems like it's most productive and cost effective. It's already done. You pay a little extra for it, and so you don't have to do the same work twice.
Not sure it quite works that way, but sure, we'll run with it.
Instead of guns, he has a laser. Whatever they do for Cyberpunk. But anyway, continue.
The game looks incredible. They're saying it's going to be coming out, I think, spring of next year.
What's the story?
I don't know if they've fully given the story yet, but I believe you're a mercenary. Your name is V, so it's kind of like a gender neutral name, so you can be male or female. You create a character, basically
V,
however
for
you
mercenary.
want. Full customization, which is awesome. And then it seems like there's branching romance options. You go take missions. It's a full open world. Like you're visiting this or you're exploring the city, taking jobs, helping people out, just kind of progressing the story. I don't know the full detail of the story, but it's super impressive, the stuff they're doing. And I don't know how it's going to, because I mean, all the demos they show for the most part are on PC at a lot of these shows, because it's just, that's the easiest build to produce. But it looks amazing. And if it runs this well on an Xbox One or a PS4, it's going to be really impressive.
Well, I know Cyberpunk 2077 is based on the tabletop role playing game, I think, from the 70s or 80s, from what I understand.
It was Cyberpunk 2020, I think it was,
or something like that. Yeah,
and they're like, oh well, that's right around the corner, so we can't name the game that.
It's too soon.
A little bit further. Yeah.
But I imagine it's going to be a really big open world game. It's got to be relatively large. What was the gameplay style like though? Was it close to GTA or The Witcher, or was it first person, third person? Can you switch?
I think you can switch. I'm pretty sure they showed a switch in my gameplay demo. Sorry, I saw probably 50 games while I was out there. Yeah. So blend together, but I'm almost certain they did a swap between first and third person. Which is good to show your customizations and everything. But most of the gameplay I've seen has been first person.
Okay.
Yeah, it's shooting and hacking and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Xia?
I mean, I think it's interesting because that was the biggest hyped game last year, and then it's the biggest hyped game again this year.
Yeah, it was. I don't think I've ever had it where I have the same game in back-to-back years as my game of the show at E3. So it's impressive, especially since they were holding off on talking about it for this long. For years and years, we were hearing rumblings. Is this the year they're going to reveal Cyberpunk? Is this the year? And then at the end of the Xbox press conference last year, they were like, "Well, thanks for coming, guys." And then the stage went black, and they made it look like they were being hacked. And that was how they revealed. Said all right, the game. This is what the game is. It's your first look at the game. So that was really cool. And then this year they just kind of did a more traditional route, but. Yeah, the gameplay demo was really impressive, and right now it is set for an April release of next year, which I think would be very ambitious. I mean, The Witcher 3 got delayed, I think, on 2 separate occasions, so I wouldn't be surprised if that gets pushed. But right now they're shooting for April, which means that next year's first third is super busy, because March has a million release date right now. So yeah, and which another one of my most anticipated games out of E3 was a March release, which is Final Fantasy VII Remake. That just looks incredible. This is our first real look at extensive gameplay, and the battle system is completely different. It's more action based, but somehow still remains loyal to the
that was for Xia,
the active time mechanics of the original Final Fantasy VII, and yeah, it's just it looks so great. It's fully voice acted now, and like the characters look so awesome, like next gen graphics, or not next gen, but you know, current graphics as opposed to like late 90s, which, you know, it was so mind blowing when you saw that on PS1 back in like, what was it, like 97, 98.
That initial like pan up of like cloud and like that shot, you're like, oh my god, this is the greatest graphics ever, and it's just all triangles.
I remember thinking like graphics will never get better than this, and now it's like almost impossible to go back to, just because it's so old looking now. Like those early polygonal graphics from like PS1 and N64, so few of those games have aged well. But they're making some really cool modernizations. This is one of the few games that I'm like super excited for that I didn't get to go get a good look at on the show floor. I just saw what they showed at the press conference, but like every single one of our editors who went and checked out the game and played it, like came away super impressed.
And are they doing that like a release, like chapter release though? Like not the whole game at once, right?
Yeah, it's so a while ago, I think I want to say like 2 years ago now, maybe even longer than that, maybe 3 years ago, there was a quote that was like, oh, it's going to be episodic. And people were like, that's like the worst news possible, because it already takes them forever to put out a game. And then they came back, they're like, oh, no, it's not episodic. And now they're saying, I think that like they're going to release it in portions, which is episodic. But they're not calling it episodic because that has kind of like a dirty, it's almost like a dirty word at this point.
Like microtransactions at this point.
Yeah, like Telltale had like their episodic stuff, and Life is Strange currently has its episodic stuff. So like people don't really like that model, but like the way they're talking about it is where it's...
We saw that at
like,
Comic-Con last year, right?
Yeah, my Life is Strange shirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're wearing it right there. There you go. I didn't even notice. But yeah. So I think that we're going to get like multiple releases there, but apparently they're going to treat it like an actual like numbered entry in Final Fantasy. So like it may be a while before we see like an actual Final Fantasy release, like Final Fantasy 16 or whatever's next for the series. Especially since Final Fantasy 15's director has left. He's gone from Square Enix. Which it was a super bummer when they announced that, because they had all these like they had lofty ambitions for their post-release stuff, and they came through on most of it, and they're like, all right, we have 3 more DLCs for this. Let's have our 2-year anniversary stream, guys. And it was like supposed to be this big celebration. They started off saying, all right, well, the director is leaving Square Enix and all the DLC but one episode is canceled. And everybody's like, wow, what a great anniversary stream, guys. Thanks.
Yeah. Do we still get pizza?
But yeah, so that was another one that I really liked. Watchdogs Legion looks phenomenal. That's the third entry in Ubisoft's franchise, where it's all about kind of like rebelling through technology. So like the first game took place in Chicago, the second one took place in San Francisco. This one takes place in London, and you can actually recruit any NPC that you see on the street. And like they all have individual talents, they have different voice acting. So like there's the funny one that everybody latched onto in the on stage demo was like they recruited like this old granny who also happened to be like a retired assassin from like and like so like you see like this granny like sneaking into like enemy bases and just assassinating people, like kicking them down from the back of their knees and blowing their heads off.
So is this like the 90s when we had all the rapping grannies? Now there are going to be assassins going into the new decade.
Finally.
Oh, another granny assassin. We've seen this a million times.
Yeah.
Damn you, Adam Sandler.
So the
go ahead, Xia.
I was gonna say, you guys have seen the Skyrim granny, right? The granny who plays, but like she's real life granny. She's like in her 60s or whatever, who loves Skyrim, and they did like a whole thing on it. I think she might still be the only one though. Like I don't think there's a bunch of like video game grannies for real.
I think there's like a Skyrim granny, and I think there's also like a Warcraft granny or something like that. Because I've seen like the Vice or like YouTube video on it. It was pretty interesting.
And now Bernie Sanders has a Twitch channel, so just keep going.
What?
Everyone's got a Twitch
Bernie
channel.
Sanders started a Twitch channel like 2 days ago.
And he's doing what
on it?
I don't know. I don't think he's done anything yet. he just popped up on Twitch one day, and I guess they tweeted it out that, hey, you can follow Bernie Sanders on Twitch.
That's terrible.
He's watching all the
presidential candidates.
He's watching all the old shows on Antenna TV. It's like, oh look, Maddox.
You're just playing
Streets of San Francisco.
words with friends with him.
I'm playing
how many times are you
solitaire.
gonna spell billionaires? And he's like, oh, god damn it.
I can't get this 5 Nights at Freddy's. How do I get out of this place?
Yeah, I don't want to spend one night at Freddy's.
But like Watchdogs, you can like go and like hack all kinds of stuff. They've just completely gone to the extreme with it. So like our editors who played it, they did this thing where like, they would take out these enemies, and then they'd be like, oh well, now they're at the hospital now. Like the guys you just like knocked out are at the hospital. So they actually go that level where they're like, now these NPCs that you knocked out are in the hospital. And one of our editors went over to the hospital, hacked their system, and it told all the doctors to euthanize the people he knocked out. So like finish the job.
That is such an Erik move. Holy shit.
That is.
You sure it wasn't Erik?
That is something I would do.
It was not Erik.
No, I'm not very kind.
That sounds like hilarious, but that also terrifies me that we're living in a simulation right now. Because if you can do that in video games, like, someone like help me out. Come on, press A.
Up, down, down, BA, dead. Oh.
Yeah.
That's got a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With games like this, because there's so much interaction, how glitchy are they? Like when the editors have played it, is there much glitching going on, or if they kind of like smooth that out? Because it seems like, especially with games like GTA, you get a shit ton.
Yeah, well, I mean, any open world game like that is going to have glitches everywhere. I mean, Rockstar is always one of the more polished ones. So like GTA and Red Dead are always some of the more polished games that are put out, especially in the open world genre. But yeah, any open world, like there's so many like variables and so many things that you would have to test in order to squash all the bugs. But I mean, Ubisoft has been notorious in the past for having very glitchy games. Like Assassin's Creed Unity, for example, is one of the most notoriously glitchy games released of the generation. But they've gone back and they've patched it, they've fixed it. And now, by all accounts, Assassin's Creed Unity is actually a really good game if people actually go back and give it a chance now, 4 years later. But even like 2 years ago, people were playing and they're like, oh, it's actually a really good game now. And the characters' faces don't vanish, revealing just a monster with eyeballs.
I totally want to play that version.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure
if
you can just find a disconnect from the internet and install from a disk, you might get that version.
But I think that happened with like the Division 1 also. Like I remember it came out, there was like a lot of problems, and then they put out like a huge update and people were like, oh, this game's good now.
Yeah, Ubisoft used to have a lot of problems with that. I think they've gotten better in recent years. So Ubisoft always had the problems with like their open worlds glitching out a lot. EA has always had the problems with their server stability in like the first week. Like Battlefield always had like rough launches. But I think they're starting to figure some of this stuff out. But, you always say that, and then there's some catastrophe like, 2 weeks later after you say this. So I'm not going to jinx anybody, especially since Mario Maker launches tonight. I don't want any glitches in that. But
well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about EA. Is it true that they are in the game?
Only the sports division.
Okay. Just for
Yeah.
checking. Does Keanu know that he's in the game?
I think he does.
Okay.
I think Keanu has become self-aware and he knows that he's in the game.
All right. Before you move on, I want to bring up one thing that seems to be really important. It was something that a lot of people were talking about when it came to E3 this year, and I just want to ask you your opinion on this. So, as the week was progressing, and it doesn't matter which day, who was announcing what, we're just going through all of the fun stuff here. So, the first real presentation was from Xbox. And then a couple days later was 2 days of Nintendo stuff. PlayStation, Sony had no presence at E3 this year. They did not show up. But they do have a bunch of games that are coming out. Some of them are started coming out now with like The Sinking City and more to come. What was the thinking as to why Sony wasn't there, and did this hurt them in the long run, considering how much attention this now made? It was pretty much Xbox's convention at this point. Nintendo held its own as well, but these two properties now just got a huge boost because Sony just didn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the long run, we'll find out if it was a good or bad move. I think that E3 has just become such a show in flux that it's hard to know what the positives and negatives of going to or skipping the show is. I mean, obviously there's positives in like, all right, the whole world's eyes are on this convention, so it's good to have your best foot forward and have a great presentation. But like Sony saved a crap ton of money by not going to the show. And, you know, a week before E3, they got to have this whole, like, they had to have all the attention on them with Death Stranding when they revealed the first look at, like, a substantial look at the gameplay. And then who knows, maybe in 2 weeks they'll be like, all right, here's another like in-depth look of The Last of Us after the E3 buzz kind of died down a little bit. So if they play their cards right, it might actually work out in their favor. That said, like, as somebody who's on the show floor, loves covering the event, I missed them. I liked having the giant Sony booth just kind of sitting right next to the Microsoft and the Nintendo booth. Microsoft wasn't on the show floor. They had their own kind of thing off to the side, like next door of the convention center, the Microsoft Theater, which they own in LA Live. So, like, you know, that's right next door to the LA Convention Center. Nintendo had a giant booth, which was awesome. Like, they had like the new Pokemon you could sit there and pose with. They had like all these like dioramas of Link's Awakening, which were really cool. Like they set up like tabletops, and they recreated scenes in like on these dioramas. They're incredible. And then they had like an actual Luigi's Mansion that you could go inside, and there were demo stations inside of it. I want to go to there. It was incredible. So Nintendo really did it right with like their booth. But yeah, where Sony's booth was like just kind of a wasteland, like
hot dog stand.
I think more so than Sony not benefiting from not going to E3. I think E3 kind of missed them more.
A lot of branched out outlets that were not being used except for charging phones.
Just Neo Geo on a cardboard box, like, we're coming back, guys.
Yay, bubble bobble.
Yeah, I think Commodore 64 or something. Or
we're Commodore 65.
Hey, Commodore 64, I'll tell you real quick. On eBay, the price for that stuff has jumped because of the John Wick franchise.
Really?
Yes. So when they call in the order, when they call in the orders to the operators, the switch room, to place the contract hit on John Wick, or to declassify the hotel or whatever, as they're programming everything in there, what they're typing it in is an old Commodore 64.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I just thought it was an old computer.
I haven't seen John Wick 2 since it was in theaters, and I haven't seen John Wick 3 yet. So,
well, do yourself a service if you've got some time off around the 4th of July holiday. 1, see Spider-Man Far From Home. 2, go see John Wick 3 before it's out of the theaters. It is definitely worth your time. It is a lot of fun. And it sets up a fourth one, and you look at it and you go, I'm not mad that there's a fourth one coming, because the way the story's progressing, you're like, yep, of course it's going that way. No. I want to see that.
Why would you be mad? That's an amazing series.
Some people get like, oh, is it going to be like a Fast and Furious? Because, you know, they've got 10 movies out.
I hope so. Right, Fast and Furious keep them better.
Well, no, I'm saying some people just don't, and they don't go and see the sequels or whatever. They just like, I'm tired of sequels. Well, John Wick's not one of those franchises. John Wick's not one of those franchises
I'll watch.
Yeah, John Wick's not one of those franchises where you get sick of the sequels. In fact, where it leaves off, you're like, I need to see the fourth one now. So, anyway, finish up with what you were saying, because I had 2 more questions before we go into more games. Go ahead.
Okay, go for it. That's all.
All right. 2 things then. 1, mostly just because I saw a minor outburst on social media, and I got to ask you. So, one of the companies had a stage where they had dance girls, I guess, on there. It was some kind of energy drink that was affiliated with the convention. And there were some energy drinks at the show, which, you know, kind of helped fill the gap. The gap, right? PlayStation. So game. One of the stages.
They're always at all the cons, though.
But not to this extent. These were huge productions. Like, they had dance squads out there and women in tight fit, good looking dance outfits for these energy drink things. And I started to see a small uprise, if you will, on the E3 feeds, hashtag stuff, where these women were just turning on and goes, really? Why does this need to be here? This is not helping. This is not helping women, and they should be ashamed of. Take this down, turn this down. People just complaining. Did you see any or hear any of that buzz on the floor, or was this just something that was showing up on Twitter?
No, I didn't see anything about that. I think I saw something on Twitter, like in the opportunities that I had to check Twitter, which was kind of few and far between. Right. But I think this was my busiest E3 ever. Like, despite Sony not being there, despite EA not being there, despite Microsoft being not on the floor, like EA is another one that has dropped off completely from E3. But
so they weren't in the game.
right down the road, they have their own thing at the same time as E3. They have a thing called EA Play, where they have like their own stream that's not like a press conference, and then they have like a couple of days where you can go in and check out all their games. But it's like a separate thing from E3. You don't have to go to E3 in order to do it. And if you have an E3 badge, it doesn't get you in. You have to like register separately
for it.
So they're not technically at E3, even though they are.
Okay, so that thing I saw on Twitter was just minor outrage. It really wasn't.
I didn't hear anybody talking about it on the floor. I mean, it doesn't mean they weren't, but right. I mean, I was in meetings almost wall to wall, so like we weren't talking about it in my meetings at the very least.
Stupid.
However, I mean, I did see people talking about it on Twitter on occasion.
Okay, second question, then we'll dive into the Xbox games and the Nintendo games. Any presence or discussion about the Google system that's coming out, where you don't need the console anymore at all? You just have the controller and it streams. Was there any kind of presence? Were people talking about it? What is it called?
So Google Stadia.
Stevia.
Stadia.
Truvia. Made with real sugar.
Yeah, you know, they had a press conference. They had their own press conference. They kind of revealed the pricing and
what's the price tag on it?
I want to say it's I don't know off the top of my head, but it is
20, 30 bucks
real quick though. No, it's more expensive than that. It's like a starter kit that you get, but you still have to buy all the games. Like it's not like
but what they're doing what they're doing is you're going to buy it like you would download a movie from iTunes
for
or
$129 plus shipping.
Yes, that's the starter kit. It comes with a Stadia controller, a Chromecast Ultra, a copy of Destiny 2, and a 3-month buddy pass. So you can give Stadia Pro to a friend, and then a 3-month Stadia Pro subscription. If you don't want to pay the monthly subscription, it'll only let you stream at 1080p, whereas Stadia Pro gives you 4K and surround sound.
Wow, that's kind of shitty.
You can buy a Stadia controller for $70, or you can use like your own Xbox or PS4 controller, I believe.
They should just do it sort of a la carte. Like if you're not going to subscribe to like for Xbox, if you don't subscribe to Game Pass, you can still just go buy the game individually.
You can do that for this too, but
you
can't. Unless you have Pro, you can't stream at 4K. You can only stream at 1080p.
That's kind of holding them hostage a little bit, you know.
But like if I don't want, I mean, well, if you have a data cap at your house, you're not going to want to stream 4K. Like I have a terabyte of data cap per month on my house, and like I had Netflix in 4K, and I went over that by like the midpoint of the month.
Damn.
So yeah, you don't want to stream in 4K if you have a data cap.
And they had no TV for the rest of the month. They just had to sit there and look at each other awkwardly.
It is a nightmare.
Now what?
I have to like micromanage. I'm always downloading games for my job at home, so it's like I have to like be very careful, especially now that I have an Xbox One X and PS4 Pro. It wants me to download all the 4K versions of these games, which like Red Dead Redemption 2 is like 112 gigs, I think. 112, 115 gigs.
How is this going to
not necessary.
How is this going to balance out, by the way? Because you were just saying, I mean, a terabyte you'd think is a lot of fucking space, but when you're streaming that stuff, as you pointed out, it gets eaten up pretty fast. So if a lot of these game companies are now trying to switch to you downloading the game instead of buying the physical hard copies, because then it costs them nothing to produce the inventory for the game. You download the game and then you got to stream this kind of stuff, and then you're kind of fucked. So if the cable companies are capping you out, or if you're in an area that doesn't allow for a gig line or something like that, so where's the balance then? Because then you're caught between what the game company's doing and what the cable company's going to allow you to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I know that streaming would never work for me. Not that I'd want to anyway. Like I played, we had editors who played Stadia, and then I played a little bit of xCloud, which is Microsoft streaming service that they're doing, and that's through the Xbox infrastructure. But you can play it on like I think any device. Like I was playing on an iPhone. I was playing Forza Horizon 4 on an iPhone. I played Gears of War 4 on an iPhone. It basically they gave me like an Xbox controller, and there was like a weird like plastic mount where you could just slide your phone in, and I was playing on their iPhone or whatever phone they had on there, and it was fine, but it was a worse version. Like I've played both of those games locally, and it didn't feel as good as playing like, you know, on my local Xbox. And yeah, I don't know. The latency issue with a game like that, like Forza Horizon 4, where you're like speeding down the road at like 170 miles an hour, it just doesn't feel as fast when you're playing it on the cloud. Whereas, if you're playing locally on your Xbox or your PC, you have such a terrific sense of speed that it's noticeable.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be like very noticeable. And if you have any kind of hiccups in your house or like your internet is like wonky, like it's not going to be fun to play.
Yeah, and the game that they keep pushing forward with Stadia is Doom Eternal, or I think they're just pushing regular Doom forward right now, and that is possibly the worst game to play on streaming, just because it's such a fast twitch game, it's fast paced, so many like quick reaction moments that like if there's even a small hiccup you could die, so I know they're trying to be like, look, this is how good this game or this service or this technology is that you can play this game, but every time we've done it it hasn't been perfect, which is what you need to compete with locally streaming or locally playing your game. And my whole point is, there's some cool things that Stadia does, like allowing people to just kind of jump into your game, or you can share save states so they can like start off exactly where you were with like the same inventory that you have, which is really cool. But outside of that, if I'm going to have to pay for a game anyway, I want to just have a local copy. So if my internet goes out, I can play it. If I want to bring it to bringing it to a friend's house, you don't really have an advantage there because you can just boot it up wherever with Stadia. But yeah, like I want to have a local copy that I can access whenever I want, and I don't have to worry about it using my data if I'm wanting to play it. If I want to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, outside of that initial enormous download, which, granted for Stadia and xCloud, you don't have to actually download the game. It just streams directly without any install, which is awesome. But then if you play it enough, you're going to make up for that data that you would have used downloading and then some.
When I was first reading about Stadia or like watching whatever people talking about it, it was sort of my understanding too that if you download the game, do you get to keep it, or is it like because it's on a streaming service, if they say get rid of the game that you're in the middle of, do you lose everything? Like if for some reason
they discontinued the game,
right? They discontinue the game or a deal falls through, so they're no longer putting that game on the streaming service. If you download the game, do you get to keep it, or do you just lose the game?
Well, there's no downloads, so if it's off their, everything's run off their servers. So if there was a kind of like a Marvel situation where Marvel versus Capcom 2 on Dreamcast and PS2 and Xbox, they were discontinued because Capcom lost the Marvel license and Activision got it, so they couldn't sell that game anymore. So it just became super hard to find. You couldn't buy it on even digital storefronts. Your best chance is buying like a super expensive used copy on eBay or something. And right now, like I think some of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games were also delisted from digital storefronts. So like games like that, if some deal like that fell through, there's a very good chance that they would have to remove it from their server, which means it's just gone. I don't know if they would have something built in where they would give you a refund, or if there's something like in the terms of service where it's like, if you buy this game and it gets delisted, that's the way it goes. Them's the breaks. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they've really gone into detail on that.
That's always been my issue with it, is like, why would I stream games that I could just lose my save spot or lose the entire game that I'm in the middle of when I could just have the game and play it whenever I want and I own it? Like, I don't know. It would be cool if you want to like try games out. Like there are some games where I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend the $60 on that, but I would maybe play it. I guess maybe it's what it's good for.
Yeah, but the thing with these is you still have to buy the game before you can play it.
Yeah, see, that sucks.
So I maybe if
they
there's a
like the
subscription
Xbox
service,
Game Pass.
Yeah, Xbox Game Pass is a perfect example of that. But you can download those games.
You download them. I have a crap ton that I haven't ever played just because they're free. So I guess
in the vein of what you guys are talking about, because I downloaded a couple of games on the Switch, and I've noticed more and more that they're putting out demo versions of games that you can download for free before buying the game. Is this going to be...
Well, Nintendo's great about that.
Is this... that's what I was going to ask. Is this a Nintendo thing, or is this going to be something that more companies are going to do? Like, here's the demo version so you can try a game before you buy it. Or I
don't think so. I think it used to be that way. When Xbox 360 first came out, I think they had some sort of mandate that every company that had a game on Xbox 360 had to have a demo trial version. And that fell to the wayside, I think, within like a year or a year and a half. And now it's rare that you actually get a demo. Like you might get a beta if you're lucky, but not
Because I wound up
so
buying
much.
2 games because I downloaded the demo and played it
think
for a little
what they're-
bit, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go buy this game, and I spent $60 per game to download them.
What they're probably going to end up doing is just say, hey, if you want to try games without buying them, just get Game Pass, you know? Like, I think that's probably going to be like their pitch at this point.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So moving on to the actual games, we started with that. Let's go back into that there. What were some of the games that stood out for you that everybody would be excited to know that they're out and should go get?
Well, my close second, a very close second for me, in turn, like Cyberpunk was my game of the show. I think it was a lot of people's game of the show. My close second was Dying Light 2. I don't know if you played this game. The first game, Dying Light, came out 2015 on
I heard great things.
PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Yeah, it's an open world zombie game, but like you can parkour and like there's all kinds of really cool missions and everything. This is actually the second game I reviewed for Game Informer when I started. So it was really cool. I think I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. So it was a very good game. And the whole like catch of the game is like when it goes to night, the like super slow, like kind of sluggish zombies turn into like these super mutated versions that can like sprint after you and like parkour a little bit themselves. And like there's
werewolfy type zombies, like they get to night and they just get super powerful.
I don't know. I think it's actually like because there are some that can run after you called virals in the daytime, but I think at night it's just these super powered zombies come out. Like they're super sensitive to light, so when the nighttime comes, like they are okay to come out. But anyway,
hence the Dying Light.
Yeah.
There we go.
Clever name.
I'm looking at I'm looking at the trailer here. So is all the gameplay in first person?
Yes.
Okay, so it's all in, it's all PO. Yeah.
So do you remember?
There's a lot of cutaway shots, and I'm seeing the character move around. So I don't know. I didn't know if you could toggle between third person and first person.
Well, I don't think they've shown any real gameplay for Dying Light 2 anyway.
So this is all just CGI generated. Everything in the E3 trailer here.
I didn't actually get to see the E3 trailer. I just saw like the behind closed doors demo, which was about 45 minutes long. And the cool thing that they're doing is they're trying to make actual consequences to your choices. So in addition to like,
so that affects the story.
Yeah, so it's improved parkour. Like you have a hang glider or a paraglider that you can use like to jump off tall buildings. You can even use like a zombie that's on the ledge. You can jump off and use him to cushion your fall, which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
You can use zip lines, grappling hook, so you can like swing across like rooftops, which is really cool. So it's an improved parkour arsenal for the Dying Light 2. But the real cool thing is the consequence of choice. So there were 3, like we saw a full mission play out, and there were 3 choices. And I guess the pitch that they're doing is because the choices are so branching and so consequential, you can miss up to a half of the game's content in a single playthrough.
Oh, geez.
Crazy. So there were 3 choices in the mission that I saw. So like you're starting off
like
where you're
choose your own adventure. Like, is this a Bandersnatch situation here?
I think it's like it's supposed to give you like unforeseen consequences to your choices. So like for example, cool. the mission is you're going to like you're running out of drinking water because it's the post-apocalypse. This is 15 years after the first Dying Light, which took like months after the apocalypse hit. So this is 15 years later. So like you're in this city, your part of the town is running low on drinking water. So you need to join forces with these 2 other factions and go convince this guy to like give you like his name's the Colonel. Convince him to like really like drain his reservoir and deliver drinking water to your town, your part of the town. So, but at the very beginning of the mission, the guy who's leading the mission is shot, and everybody's like, "Oh, we saw the guy who did it. He ran that way. He's driving away in that truck." So you have to make a decision. All right, do I stay with this NPC who got shot, my buddy Frank, or do I go chase after the guy they said shot him? So in the demo, they choose to go chase him.
Can you shoot that guy and then go after the other guy and shoot that guy too?
You can. They did not show that.
Awesome.
So, I mean, it seems like they give you like a lot of freedom. So you chase after him. They show off all the awesome parkour.
Can I get a parkour? Do you want more? No, sorry. Go ahead.
After like a 20-minute chase sequence, 25-minute, He paraglides onto the roof of the truck. You get in the truck and you confront the guy, and he's like, "Hey, wait, I can explain. And you're like, you choose whether you want to blow his head off right there or hear him out. And we chose to hear him out. And it turns out he's like on his way to this compound, and he's like, I know how to get in. So they explained to us that like if you would have killed him, you wouldn't know the code to get in, so you'd have to find a different way into the compound. Whereas this time he pulls up and he blows the horn, like three short horn bursts and like a long horn burst is like the signal, and they open the gate, so you just kind of can cruise right in. So there's an immediate example of like, you know, it your choices playing a role in how the mission plays out. But then anyway, so there's this whole stealth sequence of sneaking through the compound so nobody sees you. Once you're actually in, you get up to the colonel's front door after this whole like stealth sequence, and you get radioed that your friend who you left had died. So not only does that close off all your quest lines from that guy, so like there was a whole storyline that you could have played out with this guy apparently, and because you let him die, now that quest line is closed off to you. So then you go in and confront the colonel. All right, we got to see this mission through. And the guy stands like, "Hey, look, I know you need water, but I have a better way. You just have to trust me. I'll get you water tomorrow. And this is not the way." So like you have to make a choice. Do you trust this guy who's like this smooth talking guy who's very convincing, but there's just something off about him? Or do you
that he's missing an arm?
Or do you like go and do you trust him, or do you go and turn the water valves and like kill all of his henchmen in the process? And we killed all the henchmen and turned the valves, because he was like, "Hey, look, there's one of the factions who told you to go do this is plotting against me, and if you drain this reservoir, it basically is going to drain what we're using as a moat. So don't do this because it's going to screw me, but also I have a better way to get you water." So we didn't trust him. We decided to go through with the mission, and they showed at the end, like all the water was delivered to our faction or our part of town. So the town is in a better shape now, but then it showed like that faction that he warned us against running up to his compound where the reservoir used to be. So it's like, oh, he was telling the truth about that. And then on top of that, it opened a whole new area that you can explore now because that reservoir is empty. So it's like a whole new area for you to go and like do stuff in. And there was a new type of zombie that was hidden in the lake bed that now emerges, that like has like spikes on its arms and
it's
now
tanks and it's bombs and it's bombs and it's guns in your head.
Super Shredder.
Yeah, it looks like Super Shredder basically. But so yeah, like it changes things that dramatically. So like all of your choices have consequences, and it can really shift like whether it's opening new parts of the world, closing off storylines, or just something simple like now you can get in the base easier because you kept this guy alive. So that was something that really impressed me, and the game looks like it plays like a dream. So I'm really excited for that, and that's coming out
better being that
year.
involved. Yeah,
is that PS4 exclusive? Is what system is it on?
PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
That sounds pretty cool because it has very much like elements of like Dungeons and Dragons in it, kind of like the way you have to make decisions. But it kind of has like I don't know if you've ever played any like legacy tabletop games, but they're only made for like you only play them like 15 times. But after every game, you have to like open a new packet and fundamentally change the game where you can't go back. And it has like that kind of feeling. So that excites me as a gamer. Like sounds cool.
And they have Chris Avalon writing it, which is awesome. He is just this incredible narrative designer who so he's overseeing the writing of the game. And so he wrote Fallout New Vegas, he wrote Planescape Torment, he wrote Pillars of Eternity. So he's just an incredible writer. He does an awesome job writing RPGs. And basically his thing was, if you have an open world but you have a closed off storyline like so many games do, it kind of contradicts it. So we want to have a game where you're defining the world as much as like the world's defining your play. So I really like that philosophy, and I'm looking forward to seeing how ambitious, like how much they go for it, because they have these lofty ambitions, but at the end of the day, it's like their execution that's going to matter.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I want to try it.
What else do we got?
Dying Light 2. Control. It's a game that is made by Remedy Entertainment, the company that put out Max Payne 1 and 2, as well as the Alan Wake games. I actually went to Finland in February for our cover story trip.
You're just going everywhere. I went to Finland. I went to E3.
I'll be in Germany in August.
It's the exact opposite of what people told me would happen if I played video games my whole life.
Exactly, right?
You'll never amount to anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been traveling a lot this year.
Go out in the sunshine, make friends.
So Control is a game that's like super, super like weird. They really went for it. You take control of a character named Jessie Faden, and she had some unexplained incident happen when she was younger, and so she travels to New York to visit it's called the Oldest House, which is the headquarters for the Federal Bureau of Control, which is a secret government agency.
Okay.
It's a lot, so try and keep up because
I'm on board already. Like, this sounds like a Philip Dick book. Sounds great.
So she gets there trying to find answers because basically the Federal Bureau of Control is this government agency that is in charge of traveling around the world and
the seven seas, because everybody's looking for something.
Ugh, Erik.
So that just derailed me.
As it should.
They travel around the world and like kind of research these unexplainable events that happen, like supernatural, paranatural event.
So it's the X-Files.
Yeah, there's some parallels there.
Nice.
So as soon as she arrives at their headquarters, this supernatural force attacks and kills like almost all of the employees. And she finds this gun, and she's like, all right, well, I got to protect myself. So she picks up this gun, and it turns out that gun belonged to the former director of the Bureau. And because she picked it up, like imbues her with certain powers. So now she has the ability to learn all these powers as she travels throughout this building. And the building's always shifting. It's super like abstract in the way that like you walk up to a place and it could just completely rearrange the room. Like it's really hard to describe. Like it's crazy because like and it's like super sharp corners and like heavy concrete design. But then you go into another room and suddenly you're in like a motel in the 50s. Like, it's really weird. Like there's like, and then you go in the basement and it's completely overrun by like fungus and like these creatures that look like they're from The Last of Us. Like it's so unexplainable. And then like when you learn a power, you get taken to the astral plane, which is like just like this minimalist design where you have to prove yourself that you're worthy to earn this new power. And then you earn these powers and they open up new options, like kind of like Metroidvania, where like, all right, now I can levitate, which means I can go across that giant ledge that giant gap to another ledge that now I can access this whole other part of the building.
That's cool. Almost sounds like it has like a BioShock Infinite vibe to it. Like when you get like the vigors and you get the power, and then you can like go through the little portals into the different rooms.
Yeah, I could see a little bit of that. But yeah, I would say like it's more like the Metroid style, where like you learn a new power and now you can access a whole new area. But like the abilities are kind of like Jedi-esque, where it's like, all right, you can pull a thing with your mind towards you and then launch it at an enemy, or you can lift up parts of the floor and use it as a shield, or you can possess somebody, like you can reach your hand out and like take control of them, and the enemy will fight for you.
I was just watching the E3 trailer that they put up, and it starts off with like a slow zoom into a painting, and starts flashing red, and then you see like a work kitchen from down the end of a hallway, and then it just shows this red kind of chamber where there's just people with their hands down floating like this. It's so eerie looking.
Yeah, there's definitely some horror elements to it. Remedy has always had like that Twin Peaks influence, and they are so going for it. Like if you ever played Alan Wake, that's basically like Hitchcock meets Twin Peaks, or Hitchcock and like Stephen King, all those horror writers meets Twin Peaks and put into a game.
What's that game called?
Alan Wake.
Alan Wake. I'm gonna have to go get that.
Yeah, it's on Xbox.
All right.
But yeah, so this is like the most Remedy game that I think Remedy has ever put out, and I'm here for it. Like it is so weird and so like off the wall, and it comes out in August, so we don't have to wait We don't have to wait as long as the other games we're talking about, which are pretty much all next year.
Yeah, I did notice that the big trend was, hey, all these games, 2020. Fuck.
Yeah, but I mean, there are some games that are coming out this year, like Doom Eternal, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Fire Emblem.
Did Bethesda have like a big
Link's
presence
Awakening
there this year?
Bethesda did have they had a press conference and everything. One of their big things was, hey, we're fixing Fallout 76, and apparently like it's they're adding a lot of stuff people wanted, like NPCs to talk to. The big joke thing that they added was a battle royale mode.
I heard about that.
It's just funny because everybody was like, "Oh, of course, a battle royale mode." But it's not going to affect the other parts of the game, so why not? But the NPCs, I think people are excited for, because that was the big thing. It's like when you're going around doing these quests, you're just finding like text logs that you have to sift through, and like you're basically reading a mini novel, trying to learn like the history of what happened. And it's like, no, just like have somebody sit there and like, let me have a dialogue with a person.
NPCs are some of the best parts of the Fallout games. Like some of the NPCs are pretty funny,
right?
I like them.
But Bethesda also announced a game called Deathloop, and then Ghostwire Tokyo. So Deathloop, we don't know a ton about either of those games, but Deathloop is by the team that did the Dishonored games, and it looks like it's like a time loop based competitive game. And they only showed like a teaser basically, whereas Ghostwire Tokyo is done by the Evil Within developer, and that is also pretty mysterious. But they had
that trailer looked awesome.
Yeah, it does look awesome, right? And those are some of the stuff Bethesda had. They didn't show anything else for Starfield, which is like their next big franchise that they're pitching. Is like, all right, we have Fallout is like the post-apocalypse. You have Elder Scrolls, and then which is like fantasy, and then Starfield is supposed to be like their sci-fi franchise that they're apparently doing right now. So they teased that last year, and they didn't say anything about it this year, really. And then Elder Scrolls 6, which they also announced last year, was nowhere to be found, which is a bummer. I was really
looking forward to that.
Yeah, right?
Damn
it. But my big thing that caught me off guard was Breath of the Wild getting a sequel, which I could not be more excited for.
Before we go into Zelda there, back to Elder Scrolls. I remember playing the 5th one, 8 years ago?
2011 is when it came out. Yep.
So why is it taking so long? Is it just like Rockstar? Or they keep adding downloadable content and stories and stuff, and that's why they haven't done another?
5 is what, Morrowind, or is that Skyrim?
So Skyrim was originally released in 2011. Then they released a bunch of DLC for it, and now they just spent a lot of time porting it to almost everything. But yeah, they've just been working on other stuff. Like they had Fallout 76, which was their big project. They've done Elder Scrolls Online, which I know is not the core Bethesda team. Like that was ZeniMax Online Studios, but I'm sure they had some hand in that. So yeah, there have been some games since then, but yeah, there hasn't been a mainline Elder Scrolls game in a long time.
Yeah, okay.
Did they announce a new Wolfenstein, or was that a different
So there is Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is a co-op Wolfenstein. So yeah, they announced that last year, I think. But yeah, they showed it off, and we got to play it for the first time. And I think our people were actually not super hyped on it after they played it. Like we have like one of the biggest Wolfenstein fans in the world on staff, and he played it, and he was like, "Yeah, this isn't really what I want from a Wolfenstein game."
Oh, interesting.
Like co-op, and yeah.
So you're probably leaning on to a pass on that one then, because I played the last one. It was really good. Away.
Yeah, Wolfenstein 2. Yeah, it was really good. And then the other one that people were kind of like iffy on is the Avengers, which everybody was super excited for going in. And
I saw online the biggest complaint people had was not even the game player and stuff, that they didn't look like the movie characters.
Yeah, so like a lot of people, it wasn't even that they don't look like the movie characters, because I don't care if they look like the movie characters. I want them to look something.
No, I
familiar.
agree, but that's what the biggest commentary for when the Avengers game came out. It was like, doesn't really look like the movie people. They couldn't get the likeness rights to that. Like that, it was so petty on a cosmetic level.
It is dumb. But I think the thing that bothers me is they veered close enough to them that they almost look like stunt doubles of those. That it looks like somebody who would fill in for Scarlett Johansson, somebody who would fill in for Chris Evans.
When you can't get,
they look like
when you can't get the likeness rights. When you can't get the likeness rights to a movie character, but you can get the likeness rights to the stunt double.
Yeah,
that works great for the game, because it's like it's kind of that, but it's not really, and that saves them a ton of money.
It's like
just go classic skin. Just make it look like the comics. Just
it's like the Sam's Choice to your Coca-Cola, right? Like it's not quite the same, but like you're like, all right, they're trying to do something similar.
Yeah, it gets the job done.
But I got to see
Dr. Pepper, Dr. Thunder, you know.
Mr.
Exactly.
Pibb.
Well, Mr. Pibb is its own standalone thing.
Yeah, well, he tried.
Pibb.
So I got to see like a 15-20 minute gameplay demo of that nobody else, like not like the public didn't get to see. And you know,
Ooh, can I touch you? You're special.
It seemed pretty straightforward. Like you started off like with Thor, and you know he swings his hammer around, he throws the hammer, and then it transitions to Hulk, who's running around and like you know just has like strong melee attacks, and he can jump off like walls and stuff. And then Iron Man has like a kind of like a guided flight sequence, and where he's like dodging rockets and everything. But then like you know he gets that same kind of like arena area where he's just fighting enemies with like he can fly up and hover while he shoots down. And Black Widow I think had the most interesting gameplay. She was fighting Taskmaster.
Nice.
And she was like countering him. Like it almost looked like an Arkham Asylum style like combat system where she was like he would throw an attack and like dodge and counter. I think looked like a lot of fun, but yeah, you know, it. I think that it wasn't the reveal that people were expecting, which people were expecting to be blown away, and they were like, oh, yeah, that looks like a superhero game from like the mid 2000s. But like,
Who's Taskmaster? He sounds like an agenda book.
He is. He's a villain.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like 3:00 we have lunch. At 4:00 death.
He studies his opponents and like learns their fighting styles.
Gotcha.
He was also in Insomniac's Spider-Man in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, he was one of the side things that you could find. But yeah,
it's who people are thinking might be in the Black Widow movie. Like people are kind of guessing that he might be who she's up against.
Is that like her main villain type thing or no?
It's a good villain for her just because she isn't super powered. And since he basically learns your fighting abilities and can match them, then he's not super powered. So it's like it would be a good person. I can't say words. Good person for her to go up against as opposed to, you know, Dr. Doom or something like that.
Yeah. That would be a mismatch.
That would be so. Come on, that would be great. If she's got like a fight level of 3.
Dr. Doom more than anything, and you see Dr. Doom so bad in the MCU, but I don't think it would be the best to have her have it be a Black Widow like solo movie be hidden.
That'd be great because it's going to be Black Widow versus surprise the Eternals. She's shooting like a fucking gun and a bow and arrow, and they just like pff, she's gone. Yeah. That was a short movie. It was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
She died again.
They kept resurrecting her and killing her. That went on for 15 minutes.
It's longer than the movie.
The kids were all crying. The parents didn't know what was going on. One guy was laughing. It was a whole hodgepodge of emotion.
Yeah, I think you would need Thor or Captain Marvel to take him on.
Yeah. Because then they show up there and they go, oh, it's another Infinity War, another crossover. Give it a rest. Just let her die.
Wow.
Well, this is just me. Sorry, that's just me in the theater.
Brutal.
Somebody's projecting. All right, so
let's go back to Zelda then.
Zelda. We're going to go with Zelda. All right, we'll start with high profile.
Yeah, so this was weird.
Zelda.
This was exciting because it wasn't just one Zelda announcement. It turned into 2, which nobody was expecting.
Yeah, well, Link's Awakening back in February. Remember, that was a press release. I couldn't sleep. I was in Finland and I was jet lagged. And I checked my email.
Bragging about his world travels. Go ahead.
And so I checked my email before morning. Like, what else am I going to do? I'm in February, so it's not like I can even go for a walk out. And I checked my email, and I have a press release from Nintendo, and I'm like, oh, what's this? It's like Mario Maker and Link's Awakening coming to Switch. And I was like, what? I was super excited because I never really got to play that game when I was a kid. And it's kind of hard to play now just because, one, it's a Game Boy game. So it's going to feel dated. The best you can do is play the DX version, which is on 3DS, which was originally Game Boy Color. So I was playing that a little bit, but it's such an older game that it's fun, but it's like, all right, they fixed this with a modern version of this. And sure enough, that's what they're doing. And and it's super fun to play. I don't know if you played A Link Between Worlds.
Was that 3DS, a Game Boy game?
That was 3DS.
Yeah, I don't think I played that one.
So, Link to the Past on SNES, right?
Right.
This is a sequel to that.
I did know. That's a good point. I did notice that when I was looking at the presentation for Link's Awakening. I said it did feel like a Link to the Past. It looked very Super Nintendo.
Yeah, so it's this Link's Awakening originally was like a spin-off of A Link to the Past. The A Link to the Past team, members of it, decided to do this like in their free time. Takashi Tezuka, who was the director of A Link to the Past, he was the director of Mario 3, Mario World. He created Yoshi, for goodness sake.
Nice.
He decided, he was like, I want to make a Zelda game for Game Boy, and everybody's like, it's impossible. He's like, all right, I'll just do it in my spare time. I'm going to port A Link to the Past to Game Boy.
I'm just going to make a Zelda game in my spare time.
Basically, I mean, people at Nintendo are intense. Like, they're so passionate about these projects. And so he did it. He had like a small team working with him, and he's like, all right, well, it's not going to be a port. It could be a whole new game because
it'll be more of a sherry, a dessert wine.
It's taken into account the technical limitations of the Game Boy. So yeah, that's where Link's Awakening was born from, was the drive and the passion of this guy and his team to put a Zelda game on Game Boy. But because of Game Boys, you only had 2 face buttons. You could only do so much with the visuals. So Switch version or a modern version of that game just makes so much sense because it plays better, it looks better. You can now map different items to different buttons, which is great because you used to have to unequip your sword to put an item on, or unequip your shield to put an item on. So you can so now it's like, all right, well, the shield's always just going to be mapped to this, and the sword's always going to be mapped to this, and then you can equip 2 additional items, which is like how most Zelda games work.
Okay.
So yeah, they're making great strides in this, and plus there's a way you can create your own dungeons. Like,
see, now we're speaking. Like, that sounds awesome. Like, dungeon creator for Zelda. Like, if you could share that with friends, be like, try and beat my dungeon. Like, will it work like that?
Well, he couldn't say.
Okay.
So I asked him directly. I asked Eiji Aonuma, who is the producer of the Zelda series since Ocarina of Time. He said that he can't talk about that, but then he laughed and he's like, maybe I can tell you a little bit more next time. Because I asked him, I was like, hey, you're gonna be able to share these dungeons with friends, and it's like that. I don't want to play through a dungeon that I made. Maybe once I will, but like, because the way it works is when you beat a dungeon in the game, you unlock all the tiles from that, like all the rooms, and you rearrange the rooms however you want. So it's not like full on like I'm creating like puzzles and everything. And I asked him why he didn't do that, and he was like, well, I've created so many dungeons in my life, and making a puzzle that actually works in a Zelda game is so hard that we wanted to start with this and see if people embrace this.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, because like making a puzzle that works is so difficult. Like even in Mario Maker, it's hard. But yeah, he was saying that like this was kind of inspired by the success of Mario Maker. Was like, people really liked being able to create their own content in like these beloved games. So why not make that available in Zelda in some way?
That's awesome. I love the Zelda franchise, so anything with it, I'm cool.
Yeah, so we knew that was going to be something they talked about at E3, but we had no idea about Breath of the Wild.
So was it the reason they got this done faster is because they kept it in the same world? Like they didn't build a whole new brand new world for this next Zelda game. It's the first time they've ever done really a direct sequel for Zelda.
They did Majora's Mask, which was a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. They used all the same assets from that. They just, they did a different world. They did it in the world of Termina instead of Hyrule.
Right. So it was so Majora's Mask was exactly after Ocarina in the timeline? Because the Zelda timeline's all over the fucking place.
It is all over the place.
Right.
It takes place after Ocarina of Time.
I didn't realize that was a direct sequel.
So the timeline splits at Ocarina of Time. There's Link wins the battle, Link loses the battle, and then Link wins the battle and then returns to his childhood timeline. So that's where it splits. Like, so there's the adult timeline where Link loses, and the child timeline. So like there's the 3 timelines, and Majora's Mask, I believe, takes place when Link goes back to his childhood, and then he's the Link in that version, like he gets sucked into like this alternate world of Termina, which is in the narrative that he got sucked into like this alternate dimension of the same area explains why the people look like other people in Ocarina of Time, but they're completely different. They're like almost like corrupted or like alternate versions of themselves.
All right, so for Breath of the Wild 2 though, it's gonna take place after the events of 1, still in the same world, still in the same timeline.
So it's a continuation. They won't tell us hardly anything at all about this game. But I did get out of him that it's the same director coming back from Breath of the Wild.
You raise your
1.
hand and they're like, yes, Game Informer. Is Zelda in this? Can you tell us that? Next.
Oh, come on, give me a little more credit than that. I had one-on-one.
Is Zelda in this?
But he's raising his hand and he still has it up even though he asked the question. They're like, you can put your hand down, sir.
I'm the only other person in the room.
Yeah.
Is Link in this? What about cuckoos? Will there be cuckoos for me to kill?
Now tell me more. How does this work?
Will Ganon be a pig or a human in this one?
So that's the thing is like I've watched some analysis videos by some other YouTube companies that are like YouTube outlets that are like Nintendo or Zelda focused, and they did like super in-depth analysis on this trailer that they showed, and that's almost certainly Ganondorf. If you watch the reveal trailer, like there's like kind of like a mummified guy who's like kind of bejeweled and like he has like all this like gold all over him. It's almost certainly Ganondorf who like.
What if it's Wario? It's a big swerve.
Oh,
that would be such a good fake out. And so many people would be mad, myself included.
We got to Ganondorf, and you hear, hey. Wait,
or
Wario?
Luigi after everybody made a joke about
after
him.
all that, yeah.
Giant Wario in a gold suit.
Breath of the Wild too.
Yeah. Damn it, what was I just going to ask you now? Crap.
Just causing shenanigans all over Hyrule.
Right. Oh, well, I forgot. Anyway.
Oh, well.
Oh, watching these hyper-focused Mario and Zelda videos on YouTube, does it make you doubt what you're doing for your reviews? I'm like, man, I really need to step it up. Or do you look at it and go, these guys, look, I have to do this for a living. Those guys are insane.
No, I think it's more like they cater to a different audience. Like we have people who are Zelda focused. Like I love the Zelda series. I would say it's my favorite franchise. I posted a Zelda feature today, an interview about why two former directors in the series prefer Link's Awakening over A Link to the Past. So like I've done a lot of Zelda coverage and stuff, but like some people, like their entire focus is catering to the needs of the hardcore Zelda community, whereas Game Informers, we're experts in different areas. We have 17 editors, but like we're all experts in different areas. Some of us are more general than others, but they're the people who their entire purpose is to cater to these hardcore fans, like the super, super, super hardcore. And like that's their entire purpose. They're always going to be able to dig super deep on that. I mean, it's damn impressive the way they do. But when we don't have, unfortunately, the resources to kind of dig in that much, and we do on some games for sure, but like to that extent, especially E3 week, we didn't really have the time to do a 25-minute breakdown on a 2-minute reveal trailer if it's even that long.
Anything else on Zelda, or should we move on to the next games?
I think that's all on Zelda.
Okay. Anything else for Switch that drew your attention? Obviously, Luigi's Mansion 3.
Luigi's Mansion's a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
I didn't really play too much of the originals. So there's 2 Luigi's Mansions games out already. The first one on GameCube, which also got ported to 3DS, I think, last year. And then there was Dark Moon, which was a direct sequel to the first one. And now they're doing Luigi's Mansion 3 on Switch. And I got to play co-op on that because there's a co-op, like a separate co-op mode where you can play like 8 players. And it's just insane. Like you're basically going around playing co-op Ghostbusters because you have to clear the room, clear like a floor of the hotel in a certain amount of time, capturing all these ghosts. And if you don't get it in time, you lose. Or if you do get it in time, you get to go on to the next floor. And you're basically continuing to like improve your time and get a better score. But there's also a single player story that you can have co-op as well. And it's like fun themed levels. Like I played a medieval level where I fought a guy, like a jouster. like a jouster ghost with a shield, and he has like a suction cup. Like Luigi has a suction cup in his vacuum now, so you can like shoot it on walls and pull down walls to reveal secrets, and like you could steal shields from ghosts that like you can't suck them up until you rip their shield out of their hand with the suction cup. So there's a lot of cool stuff they're adding to this one. Yeah,
you mentioned ghost busting, and I noticed this a lot more now ever since the 2016 female Ghostbuster movie, which I'm seeing this now in Luigi's Mansion 3. The new design that everybody seems to be doing for ghosts is that they are translucent, but they have a bold neon glow around the ghosts. And I see it in the trailer for Luigi's Mansion 3 that makes it really... Like, if they didn't have it there, you would barely see it. It would look like the bugs on the when you watch network television. It shows you their network logo, but you can kind of barely see it. It's just distorted enough so that it's present. But a lot of the people seem to be doing this now with TV and with games, that they put this bold neon glow around the ghosts. I think it's a cool effect rather than making them white, pure white and or semi translucent white going through there. Now it's just invisible with the glow. I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think in games it might be just to help them stand out a little bit more. But yeah, it is a cool effect. I agree.
Right,
but is that the first time that really happened though? Was the
as far as I knew,
Ghostbusters reboot?
As far as I knew, on a major scale, that neon glow surrounding paranormal activity stuff was that Ghostbusters movie. And then I started seeing it everywhere else after that.
Movie. Yeah.
Well,
I did not watch that trash.
You missed nothing. But I'm here to fill you in on it. So, yeah, you know what? Watch Luigi's Mansion 3 on YouTube, and you got Ghostbusters 2016.
Okay.
All good.
I would rather watch that anyway.
Yeah, I would much rather watch that.
Also,
watch someone stream it.
Ghostbusters news, and then we'll go right back to the game. It was just announced Paul Rudd is now going to be in the new Ghostbusters movie coming out.
I did see that.
They did not reveal the tie-ins. They did not reveal anything else. Now, also, I heard Rick Moranis is in this one. They have not officially announced it, but I've heard through other channels Rick Moranis is returning to this movie. They
must have gave him quite a paycheck because he had pretty much completely retired for a long time.
Well, he retired on his own accord for family reasons. I mean, I think it's well documented now. His wife got sick and had passed, and then he just retired to take care of the kids and be all about family. But they've all grown up, and now he's just, there's been rumblings that he wanted to do something again, and it's not official. But I've heard through other channels that he is a part of the new Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters 3, which is coming out next summer. They announced Annie Potts. She's officially in it. And now Paul Rudd's going to be in there. So I don't know what his role is going to be, but that's exciting because I do enjoy Paul Rudd in a lot of the things. Because he plays Paul Rudd in everything, and I'm okay with that.
Totally.
All right.
I'm fine with that no matter what. Like Ant-Man, play Paul Rudd. I love you, man. Play Paul Rudd.
It'd be great if he's in a rom-com and just all of a sudden grew to 50 feet. And they're like, he's confusing his movies again. The restaurant's ruined. She left.
A rom-com that has Paul Rudd in it, I am 75% more likely to see.
Yeah, same here.
Also, if we're going to talk about our love for Paul Rudd, two other things actually. One, he co-owns a candy shop with what's his name from Walking Dead.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. They own a candy shop together just north of the city, about 45 minutes north of the city here in a small town. We were supposed to go up there, Giddles, remember? Yeah.
We didn't go up there. We should still do that at some point.
Please do and post all the pictures.
Okay.
I need to see everything.
All right. Giddles will.
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned candy shop.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite ones.
In this quiet lakeside town that nobody really knows about. So yeah, we'll have to go and check that out. The other thing is, if you see, he recreated Go West King of Wishful Thinking music video with Jimmy Fallon. They did it shot for shot. It's really good. So you have to look for that on YouTube.
I did see that. That was hilarious.
And they just did Dead or Alive's You Spin Me. They recreated the video together as well. That one just came out. But the Go West King of Wishful Thinking, I think, is much better. So for all your Paul Rudd needs, go to YouTube. Moving on. Go to Brian Shea. What else do we have, sir?
All right, you want a lower profile one?
Sure.
I'll give you two lower profile ones. All right, we got Planet Zoo. Did you play Planet Coaster at all? Have you ever heard of Planet Coaster?
No.
So Rebellion. Yes, you did. Awesome.
Yes,
so it's basically a modern version of Coaster Tycoon. So Planet Zoo is basically a modern version of like Zoo Tycoon and games like that, where you're building your own zoo, you're managing the animals, you're running the zoo, you're attracting people to come to the zoo. It's that, it's a modern version of that.
Basically you build the entire thing, right? Like you actually the exhibits and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you build the exhibits. You can you design their habitats. So like you have to decide like what kind of grass or like ground that they have. So if you have crocodiles, you need a decent amount of water. And it's like, oh well, they want soil instead of sand. So you have to like make sure you have the right ground. And like each animal individually has like a happiness chart where it's like he's happy with his environment, but he's not happy with his cohabitants. And so it's crazy the level of detail they go in. Like you can zoom in to a giraffe and like to the single hair level, like individual hairs that you can look at on these animals. It's just crazy how why not?
You can look at your pretty giraffe.
It's just to flex nuts and say, look at this technological advance that we have here.
They all have dynamic behaviors. Like, can you cause a stampede?
Simulation.
So they were all like, so for example, one time it started raining and the chimpanzees, like I would say like 3/4 of them ran for shelter, like underneath like this structure that was built in their habitat, while like the other 25% just started playing in the mud, which is funny.
Can you start a stampede?
Well, it says that there are alpha animals that will emerge, and then the other animals will follow that alpha around.
All right, here come the elephants.
And then like the first 5 minutes of my demo, like it's all like, all of it is just based on like it's running live. The first 5 minutes, like no matter what habitat we went into, like multiple animals were taking massive dumps. Just they couldn't get away from it. It was hilarious. But
that sounds awesome, actually.
with the dynamic behaviors, they also have like they breed based on like just different elements, and so like based on the parents, like the babies that are born will have tendencies and patterns like that are hereditary. Like all the giraffe and like zebra prints are based on the parents' zebra prints, and every single animal is unique. So like it's crazy. Like they said you'll never have two of the same animal. Wow. You can customize everything down to like the climbing frames that you put in the chimpanzee enclosures. So like, and they'll run it like seamlessly. Like they showed like, hey, here's like the climbing frames that we're going to place just however. And then the chimpanzees got a running start and ran up it and like just seamlessly, like we're enjoying it. You can like enrich them a little bit more and like get their brain active by like, instead of just throwing like a pile of food in the middle of their habitat, you can put a puzzle that like puts food. They have to like solve a puzzle or like work to get the food out, and it improves like their brain function.
Can you send out like a horde of hippos?
Pretty intense for a game.
Yeah. Can you send out like a horde of hippos and kill poachers?
I wish. God. Yeah.
It's the ivory dealers.
You do have to hire people to take care of the zoo. Like they only showed the zookeepers, but like it's funny because they went into like a wild dog enclosure and like the dogs knew what the sound of the door opening meant. So like they were all just laying around and the door opened and you saw all their ears and like perk up, and then they turned real quick and looked at the zookeeper as he's walking in with like a bucket of food. So that's pretty cool. Like there's some awesome stuff you can do there. And then of course you want to make sure it's like a good time for the visitors in the park, so they keep paying money and allow you to do stuff. So that's one like under the radar game that I think is definitely worth attention. Like that comes out this year, I think November 5th, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's another game called Evil Genius 2 World Domination.
It's the same exact game, which was ironic.
So Evil Genius, the first one came out in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, but it puts you in control of an evil genius, like kind of like a Bond villain type person. And you have to, oh, sorry, my cat is climbing on my chair right now. So you have to basically put together a secret lair and then run it like an evil genius would. So you build like traps. So if people try to infiltrate, like if secret agents try to infiltrate your base, you can set up like trap networks to prevent them from infiltrating. And then also so the example that we had was like a secret agent infiltrated the base and they got in this narrow hallway and a giant fan turned on. It blew them through like this laser grid that stunned them. And then while they were stunned, the floor at the end of the hallway opened up and dropped them into a shark tank. So it's stuff like that where you can chain together.
As one would do.
Exactly. So, and then like you have to build like a front for your lair. So like a casino to make it look like a legitimate business. And like people will come and spend money at your casino. But yeah, and there's like different things you could do. Like there's like a brainwashing station. So like if a secret agent comes in and like you capture them.
Is it like the eye washing station?
It's a little bit more intense than that.
Okay.
So you brainwash them so they go back to their headquarters and they're like, yep, it's all clear. No secret lair there. So there's some cool stuff. You could train your henchmen and your minions to be better at certain things. Like you could train your minions in like martial arts so they can stand a better chance against secret agents. Or you can have like henchmen who you can give direct controls to, who are better at like fighting the secret agents and like doing different tasks. It seems super cool the way you can like just customize your secret lair any way you want and like create like these crazy trap networks to kind of prevent them from getting in and killing your genius, which ends your campaign.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, that comes out next year on PC.
Wow, just PC. Okay.
Yeah, for now. I don't know. Maybe they'll add consoles.
Let me ask you real quick. Have you seen, with everything that's been going on lately, have you seen a decline in PC gaming because all the multiplayer stuff is all on console now?
What?
Not really. I mean, I think we're seeing games come to both console and PC, and then PC is always going to be the preferred home of like strategy games and simulation games.
And all the esports are all on PC.
Yeah, like things like that, like, you know, League of Legends, Dota 2, all the MOBAs are always going to be on PC. And then a lot of people very much prefer first-person shooters and like other shooters on PC because, you know, mouse and keyboard. While I don't really like it, I grew up playing on gamepads, so I'm always going to prefer that. A lot of people prefer mouse and keyboard for that because it's just so much more accurate. Like if I have Overwatch, I have Overwatch on my PC. That's one of my favorite games ever, and I play it almost every night on my Xbox. But if I were to plug my Xbox controller into my PC and try to play on PC, I would get blown away because the mouse and keyboard crowd is so much more accurate. Because think about when you're on like a website, you don't really like miss.
You're not trying to click your tabs like this.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a mouse is so effective at like clicking on things, because you can just immediately go. There's a visual representation of where you're aiming the mouse, and you just click. And it's the same concept with shooters on PC. So there's always going to be a crowd that prefers mouse and keyboard for precision-based games like that. So,
well, there are people that use that device where you can use your mouse and keyboard on the actual console.
Yeah, and some developers encourage it. I
feel like there's a lot of controversy behind it.
Exactly, yeah, because like I said, but if I were to plug my Xbox One controller into my PC, I wouldn't have a chance because the mouse is so much more accurate than
right?
What was that?
Zim, I think it's called.
I don't know what it's actually called.
I had a buddy who was playing Destiny 1 that he like raided through his Xbox with a keyboard and mouse, and it was just insane to watch how him just decimating people. Like it wasn't even a fair fight. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so I like aiming with a mouse, but I suck at like navigating the WASD and like the space bar to jump and everything. So I actually have a number pad that I can rest my left hand on that has an analog stick that I can run around on.
Right.
I wanted one of those.
So I can show it to you guys on the camera right here.
That's
a popular and there's a number
one.
Pad. So yeah, that's how I manage. Like, you know, I can still aim with the mouse, but move around with the joystick on the on that thing. So that helps me kind of cope with the fact that I suck at moving around on with a keyboard. But yeah, I don't know if I really answered your question, but I sure talked a lot.
And you're going to talk a little bit more before we get out of here. Do you have one or two more games that you want to discuss before we throw in our questions at you and then get out of here?
I mentioned it very briefly, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So they're basically rebooting the Modern Warfare series. This isn't like Modern Warfare 4. This is like a full-on, like, this is now like just called Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And basically the reason they're doing that is because they...
Didn't their game last year not do well?
No, last year was gangbusters. Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
That was the Battle Royale. Yeah, there was no campaign, so some people didn't like it. But
yeah, that's
it was
what
the
it
Battle
was.
Royale
Right.
one that people went bananas over. Yeah, I don't use that word lightly. And so Call of Duty Modern Warfare, it's the reason they're rebooting it is because they said that, like, you know, when the original Call of Duty came out, like, it was more like rah troops, whereas this is kind of like, you know, if you go into like a warfare situation, especially in like today's day and age, there's maybe some like gray areas for like the decisions you have to make and like the things you're going to have to do. And that's certainly like shown through in the demo that I saw. I saw a single player demo where they were infiltrating this house where some sort of illegal operation was going on and they had to breach it. And then they're going room to room sweeping. And like, there's like people like kind of just like walking through this kitchen and like they grab them and, you know, cover their mouth and pull them to the side, and then they walk in and like the people look like they're surrendering, and then they go and run for a gun, so you have to kill them real quick. And then there's a woman who like picked up a baby real quick who was crying. It's like, all right, well, we don't want to shoot her while she's holding the baby, and then like she was just using it as a ploy to escape. So like it was like really intense. Like the demo, it felt like I was watching like a really well filmed movie, and it was like an actual gameplay demo.
It sounds like Children of Men, just like super intense. What's gonna happen?
Oh my god! Like I was on the edge of my seat, and it was only like a 15-minute gameplay demo.
Interesting.
And it was all like, you know,
cool. So they trying to bring like more of like a role playing element into the games.
I don't think
type
it's,
thing.
I don't think it's that so much as they're just trying to like make it so it's more of like there's going to be some stuff you have to do that maybe you're not super on board with or proud of, and I don't know how far they're going with that route, but they're just saying like, you know, it's a bit of a different landscape with how war is fought today versus back then.
All right, interesting. I'm picturing Erik playing it, and it's like lady picks up the baby, Erik shoots the baby. I know how Erik plays video games.
No, Erik throws the baby at the villain.
There we go. That's what it is.
So a couple other quick hits. Outer World, which is the kind of like the Fallout in space style game. People are super excited for that. It's done by Obsidian Entertainment, which is the studio that did Fallout New Vegas. So people are kind of upset at Bethesda for putting out Fallout 76 and not really being like a real Fallout game. It's like this online thing. This is super just like straightforward, the Fallout formula, and people are going to love it, I think. The only thing that we've heard that's like a little bit concerning is that it's not as long as a Fallout game. Like it's like a shorter experience. Like I don't know what the exact hour count is, but I think it's shorter than like a traditional like Fallout style game would be. But yeah, it's totally like that style where like you're recruiting NPCs to come fight alongside you. You're finding like these wacky weapons. There's like that kind of oddball sense of humor, like dark sense of humor. But yeah, there's like dialogue trees talking with the NPCs. It's exactly what you would want from a Fallout game, but now you're in space.
All right.
Going to these different planets.
I like things based in space.
Yeah, well, you'll also like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is our current cover story. Yeah, that's done by Respawn, which is the company that did Titanfall, Titanfall 2, and Apex Legends. It's a single-player only game, so you don't have to worry about like, oh, there's going to be all this multiplayer nonsense. Yeah, it's just a single-player story mode that takes place between Episode 3 and Episode 4 of the Star Wars movies. So it's after Order 66 has been executed, and you're like a Jedi kind of in hiding. You're like, you know, you've taken like a menial job where you're like, I think you're working for like a scrapper or something, and then like the trailer shows that like one of your coworkers falls and it looks like he's about to like grab him with the force, but like he doesn't know if he should because he's trying to remain undercover. And if he does that, that's going to maybe draw some attention if, his coworker starts levitating when he reaches his hand out. So yeah, it's basically.
Well, you could get away with it. He could just look like he's stretching, like.
Oh yeah, I didn't do that.
Done.
Yeah, and then they're like, "What's going on here?" Like, "Oh, nothing," and he just splats against the wall.
And they're like, "Oh, I was caught."
Oh, he's flying. He must be the Jedi.
But I mean, like, hey, if it's Respawn doing it, like, I didn't have much interest, but now, like, hearing that it's them and like how good Titanfall 2 was and the storyline was, like, I'm very excited.
Yeah, it looks super cool, and like the gameplay looks very awesome. But yeah, if you go to GameInformer.com/Star Wars Jedi, you can see all of our stuff for that game. And then I guess one more that people are really excited about is Borderlands 3.
Yeah, that's the big hype.
Yeah,
I've never really played the series. I have
Erik.
1 and 2, but I never opened them. I don't know why.
They're super fun, especially if you have friends to play with. But even if you don't, like single player, I think they're fun enough to play. But you can do 4-player co-op. Borderlands 3 seems like it's just kind of like more of the same, which I don't think most people are going to have a problem with. Like, you get to play 4-player, go back in with 3 of your friends and go and tackle these dungeons, grab as much loot as possible. And I think people are going to dig it. It comes out in September.
Very soon. Very good.
And then Doom Eternal, people are obviously psyched about. Trying to see what else. Animal Crossing, I think I maybe mentioned that a little bit earlier, but yeah, Animal Crossing people are excited about. That comes out next year on Switch. Gears 5, they dropped the Of War in the title for some reason,
because
but
the Gear Wars are over.
Yeah, the Gear Wars are over now. It's just all about Gears. But there's a new mode called Escape where like it's just a co-op mode. You infiltrate a hive, you plant a toxic bomb, and then you have to escape before the poison cloud wipes out everything. So in order to do that, though, you have to run through all the enemies. So it's different from the other Gears of War modes where like it's mostly defensive. Like if you think about like the campaign,
like the horde mode and stuff too.
Yeah, horde mode, you're digging in, you're defending a point. The campaign, you're kind of methodically moving through an area, ducking behind walls and everything. This you can't really waste any time because you have to get out before that poison cloud takes over the hive.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and all the characters all have like ultimates and everything they can use. Like one of them, like the tank has a shield that he can deploy and like carry around, kind of like Reinhardt in Overwatch. The support has like an ammo replenishment field, which is super useful because in that mode, ammo is like a super precious resource. And then the assault class, their knife becomes electrified, so you can actually like just start slashing at enemies and like really cutting them up good. Let's see what other ones. I'm looking at a list right here.
Well, is there any? I'll throw it out to everybody here. Is there any game specifically that we haven't touched on that you guys want to ask Brian about?
I don't think so.
Because I have one. No. But if Giddles, go ahead if you do.
No, for me, not really. Like, it was kind of like seeing old games that I used to play again being like remastered new, and I want to play those again. And then just like other franchises just continuing going that I want to keep playing. It's kind of weird. Like everything I'm hyped for that was at this E3, I was hyped for at last E3.
Yeah,
so
I mean, there were
kind of interesting. There was like more Death Stranding stuff. Like I know I saw like some of that, but that was like leaked before. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like
Sony wasn't at E3, so they did a stream beforehand. So speaking of John Wick, there's a John Wick game coming to PC called John Wick Hex, and it's a strategy game. It's not like a shooter game. It's a strategy game where like I didn't get to play it, but I think the whole thing is you're going around and you're like trying to as efficiently as possible clear out a room of enemies. And like it's very stylish, and yeah, it looked super cool.
It was like reverse John Wick. Like you have to escape, but you actually can't kill anyone, and that's the strategy. Like, oh no!
But it's made by like somebody you would not expect to make it. So it's Bithell Games, who made Thomas Was Alone and Volume, which are like basically like Thomas Was Alone was kind of like a quiet platformer puzzle game, and Volume was like a almost like a love letter to the very first Metal Gear, where it's like isometric stealth. There's also a game called Gods and Monsters, where I think the elevator pitch for that game is the Assassin's Creed Odyssey game is making a Zelda game, or the Assassin's Creed Odyssey team is making a Zelda game.
Okay.
So it looks very much like a Zelda game. Let's see, what else? Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming to Switch, I think, next month. Pokemon Sword and Shield comes to Switch later this year, November, I think, to be exact. Yeah, I think that's a lot of the stuff that I saw. Trying to think of if I missed anything else.
Well, I have a game.
I want another game like Inside.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. I have a game that I want to ask about. I saw they showed very little about it, so I wanted to see what you knew. 12 minutes.
12 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like an adventure game kind of thing where like a guy is stuck in a 12-minute long loop, a time loop, and the whole premise is he gets a knock on the door. They say it's the police, and they come in and they want to question your wife because they're like, we have evidence that she murdered her father. And the whole point of the game is to figure, and like the first loop, it ends with the cop or the person who says he's a cop killing your wife. And the whole point of the game is to figure out some way, and then like you just have to relive these 12 minutes over and over and over again. You have to figure out some way to prevent this from happening, and that's how you escape the time loop.
You just don't play the game. You don't have to worry about it.
So like there's like different ways like to like try and reason with her, try to like fight the cop, I think our editor who played it like actually put something in her drink to knock her out and put her like to hide her in the closet so she didn't like he's like, yeah, she's not home. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like she's not here. Like there's like you have to get like creative and like try to figure out a way to like make it so that it doesn't end this way. Which seems like a really cool idea. So I'm interested to see that. Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. I don't know if you have followed anything about this. Have you ever played the Lego Star Wars games?
I did years ago. I mean, at least over 10 years ago. They had episodes 1 through 3 and 4 through 6 in a bundle.
Yeah, so they've remastered them before. So they released like the Star Wars prequels and the Star Wars like the original trilogy in Lego form. And it's always been like a fine game, you know, it's like a fine co-op game or a fine like action game where you're going around solving puzzles and like seeing like jokes and nods to things in the Star Wars universe. But they're doing the entire Skywalker saga in one release. And so it's episodes 1 through 9, and they're redoing the engine. Like the engine's been completely rebuilt. And now like it's not just like kind of like this weird like top-down isometric view. Like the camera kind of swings behind you as you're running, and you actually can aim your gun. So it's like almost like a third-person shooter now as well. And it just looks like they're doing so much more with the formula, which was desperately needed. Because before going into E3, I was like, all right, I don't ever need to play another Lego game again. I've played all the Lego Star Wars games. I've played a couple of the Marvel games. I know there's like Harry Potter. Yeah, there's Hobbit. There's Harry Potter. There's Lord of the Rings. There's Indiana Jones. I think, yeah, there's so many Lego games. It's like I never need to play any more as long as I live. But this had me excited because like, they redid it all like it just looks like it's so much more involved, and playing it is so much more fun. You know, as far as Lego goes, I'm still playing Dimensions because I haven't opened every package that I have here, those add-ons. So I'm still playing that and going through it. Even though it's been discontinued for what, 3 years now? 2-3 years? It has been discontinued for a while. Yeah. But screw the system. I'm still playing it. Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's most of the stuff that I saw at E3. All right. There's a lot more, but yeah. Brian Shea, thank you so much, man. We got to do the plugs and get out of here. So let's start with Brian Shea since he did all that talking for us. Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brian P. Shea. That's SHEA. And you can follow us at Game Informer on Twitter, Game Informer on Facebook, and Game Informer Magazine on Instagram. We have all kinds of stuff like behind the scenes at E3, behind the scenes at Game Informer on our Instagram, so follow us. It's Game Informer Magazine. And then, of course, you can follow our day-to-day stuff on GameInformer.com. And then every month we have a new issue that comes out with cover story, tons of previews, tons of reviews, tons of interviews, features. That next issue will also have all of our E3 coverage.
Xia, what do you have? Where can people find all the stuff that you do?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Xia_Land. It's XIA_land. And also on AfterBuzz TV on Sunday nights at 9. Although the archive versions are all up there, you can find Marvel TV Weekly, where we talk about all the Marvel things. Season 3 of Legion came out, so that's super exciting.
Nice.
Almost done watching season. Yeah, super excited about that. Season 3 of Jessica Jones, we're almost done talking about that. Just a few more episodes. And then on the Popcorn Talk, also on YouTube, Marvel Movie News at 1 p.m. Thursdays. Again, all the versions are up. We just did a non-spoiler review of Spider-Man Far From Home, but we're going to be doing a spoiler review next Sunday. Actually, we had to reschedule because of 4th of July. Oh, and Geek Bomb. I create content for them, like voiceovers, pretty much just any random geeky stuff. That's also on Twitter and Instagram at Geek Bomb.
There you go. And then we're going to have you back, because third time will be a charm to get the connection from you in LA to here, where the mic's working, the camera's working, everything like that.
Everything works.
Yes.
For one.
You're getting better.
You're getting better. Inching closer.
1 or 2 down.
Giddles, what do you have?
Giddle Base on the Twitter, Instagram, Xbox Live, and that's it for right now.
For me, it's E-Rock Radio across the board on social media. More importantly, the show, it's Erik Nagel across the board on the social media. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you want to leave a voicemail to be used on future shows, 651-SMITHERS, that's 651-764-8437. And also a tiny plug for the other program that I do with Brian Johnson from AMC's Comic Book Men, the Kevin Smith movies, the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast. The show's called Would You Kindly. You can find us up on YouTube. Look at my social media. We have the links all up there. Or go over to compoundmedia.com and subscribe if you want to watch the shows as we do it live, or get the whole on-demand catalog. I think that's about it. So until the next time, be excellent to each other, and...
You said the "and," Eric.
Hold on, the remix. Until the next time, be excellent to each other.
And have a wonderful time.
And we'll be seeing you. See, we cut the other part out. They didn't even know. Here's the sweeper.
Oh, they heard that.
It's Erik Nagel.
So long, folks. See you soon. Hope you love the show. Come on next time if you liked it, but if you didn't like it, then watch something else. Oh, yeah. Scally, goodbye, Frank.
Alas, we're out of time.
Follow It's Erik Nagel on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For ways to listen to the show, go to itseriknagel.com. And remember to tell 2 friends so they can tell 2 friends.
And they can tell 2 friends. And they can tell 2 friends. And those 2 friends can tell 2 more friends.